Today we're gonna analyze Millie Bobby Brown's face to see how attractive she really is. Stranger Things came out this Wednesday, so I wanted to do Millie Bobby Brown today. So for her front, she got a 6.54, which is a top 10% face, roughly, for the front, and for her side, she got a 5.73, and that overall got her a 6.2 out of 10, which is a top 16% face in terms of harmony overall. And I'll say this is somewhat close to her overall rating when we include misc, angularity, dimorphism, coloring, and things like that. I'll actually give her, she's actually lower than what some of you guys might think she is. I'll give her a 5.75, which is a top 25% face for women. And her biggest deductors were I'll say her coloring. Her coloring isn't really good. Her eyebrows can be darker. She has nasolabial folds. Her angularity from the side isn't that good, but she's still relatively somewhat attractive, right? But ordinary. So I'll give her a 5.75. Anyways, so onto her front ratios. Her biggest deductor was her FWHR, and she got a 1.73 times for the score, and that adds up to 3 out of 10 on the Face IQ chart here. And she got this heavily deducted because of her long philtrum. She has overly laterally projected zygos, and her eyebrows are medium set. So if we, yeah, long mid face contributes from her philtrum, long nose vertically, and this is 1.73 times, and ideally we would want this in the 1.95 range. If we look at the bell curve here, yeah, like right in the middle of blue is 1.95, and that was her biggest deductor. And her second biggest flaw was her one eye apart test. So if we put her, let's say her left eye onto the middle, it'll be 1.14 times. And this is because she has very slightly wide set eyes. Ideally, we would want it in the 0.95 range. So that was a big deductor for her. Her third biggest flaw was her lower third. Her lower third is actually too big for a woman. Ideally, we would want the lower third to be somewhat close in length of the mid face for women. And we would want the forehead to be the smallest, which she has. She has a pretty small forehead. And her biggest deductor after the lower third is her bitemporal width. Her temples are pretty wide. We can see that her temples are 92.7% of her cheekbones. Her next biggest flaw was her cheekbone height. She has medium set cheekbones. We would want it higher to the outer canthus. So like right here would be high set cheekbones. Total FWHR. She has an overly long face as we talked about. This should be in the 1.33 range ideally. Lips lateral angle. Again, we talked about this. Her FWHR, the flaws that make her FWHR low contributes to this ratio being off. Mid face ratio, it's her philtrum's long and her one eye apart test is a bit off, which contributes to her mid face ratio being off. Ear protrusion angle, she has mildly flared ears. We can just visually see they're slightly flared. ESR, slightly wide set eyes. Lower lip to upper lip ratio. Her lower lip should be a bit fuller than her upper lip when it's not. Yeah, it should be in the 1.65 range ideally. Eyebrow tilt. Her eyebrows can be slightly more tilted. Eyebrow low setness. Her eyebrows can be lower set, so closer to her eyes. And starting from deviation of lips lateral angle, she pretty much gets everything perfect. And we can hop onto this one first. So what this angle shows that the deviation of her lips lateral angle and jaw frontal angle is 3.13 degrees. Ideally, we would want it identical. We would want the lips lateral angle and the jaw frontal angle to be basically the same. And we see this in most attractive people where lips lateral angle and jaw frontal angle will be the same or very close to each other. Top third, her forehead is small, but on the really small end, which is fine. Jaw frontal angle. Her eyes are her roundness and her PFL is pretty much perfect. Middle third, perfect. Bigonial width, perfect. We don't want, for women, we don't want your jaw to be too wide or too narrow. And for Millie Bobby Brown here, it's perfect. Lower third proportion, good. Mouth to nose ratio, perfect. Chin to philtrum, good. Canthal tilt, her canthal tilt is 8.96 degrees. This is perfect. Upper end of ideal, but so good. Perfect, 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 good. Onto her side ratios. So her biggest flaw stems from her not passing the lip assessment, and this is because her chin is slightly recessed. We can see that her chin is a little pushed back than her lips when it should be slightly forward to her lips. Yeah, that's why she doesn't pass the upper lip S-line position. Mandibular plane angle, this was a bit adductor. This indicates that her jaw is downgrown, and this is because her ramus is actually a bit too short, and that also gives her a steep jaw. We can see that her ramus right here is small. Her ramus should be like little down to her lips, so maybe like right here. Submental cervical angle, she has a low hyoid, so giving her a double chin look when she's obviously pretty lean. So that gives her a rounded neck region. Recession relative to Frankfurt plane, her chin is recessed, so she doesn't pass this. Nasal width to height ratio, her nose is vertically too long compared to her width, so that's why she gets this off. Another lip assessment, we talked about cornea into mouth line. Another lip assessment, her gonial angle, she has a steep jaw, she has a downgrown jaw, which gives her gonial angle off measurement. Lip assessment, mental labial angle, orbital vector, this is on the positive side, but her orbital region can be more positive. So this gives off a slightly, tired and unhealthy look. On to the next one, nasal tip angle. Her nose tip is pretty refined, but it still can be slightly more sharp. You guys can see it's little round, which isn't ideal. Convexity, this is also like a lower jaw thing, and the chin. Frankfurt tip angle, pretty good. Nose tip rotation angle, good. This lip assessment, another lip assessment. Nasal projection, she has a slight dorsal hump, so that's why she gets a 0.22 off of the scale. I don't know if you guys can tell. If I zoom in here, you guys can see like a slight dorsal hump right there. On to the next one. Brow ridge inclination angle, she has a pretty good brow ridge. Nasal frontal angle, because her brow ridge is pretty good, her nasal frontal angle is perfect. Perfect. Lip assessment, perfect. Facial depth to height ratio, this is important. It shows how far your maxilla is projected, and her maxilla is pretty projected, as we can see, so this is good. On to her top 3 strengths. So she has an ideal jaw width, so if we look at here, her jaw is pretty wide, right? We don't want it too wide or too narrow for women. Ideal nose width, her nose isn't too wide or too slim, which is ideal. Balanced brow ridge, we talked about this, her brow ridge is good. So according to Face IQ Labs, Millie Bobby Brown has 3 severe flaws, and her number 1 severe flaw was her long nose vertically, which gets her a lot of deductions in her harmony, and her biggest deductor was her FWHR, and it's part of that is because of her long nose vertically. Long mid face, it's mostly because of her philtrum being a little too long. We talked about it, and that messes up her FWHR again, her mid-face ratio, and her lips lateral angle. Steep jaw, she has her jaw is downgrown, kind of like Ryan Gosling. And it lowers harmony score for her mandibular plane angle and her gonio angle. Yeah, she has a downgrown jaw. Around the neck region, we talked about it. She has a low hyoid, giving her a double chin look. And she has a mandibular recession, which her chin's recessed and her lower jaw in general is bit recessed. So she's recessed relative to the Frankfurt plane. That's it for the analysis today. If you guys want the same facial analysis that I did for Millie Bobby Brown here, with your 30 front harmony ratios, just like her, and all your 29 ratios here, with your top strengths that increase your score and your areas of improvement, so your flaws that decrease your score. And if you guys want your overall rating in the end, you guys can click down my link below in the description or in the pinned comments, and you guys can use code AndyKim to get 25% off of Face IQ Labs.